In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. A little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Good morning, Portugal! It's my turn in the hot seat, and I've got Carl muted on a coach on his way to Lisbon. Oh, look at him giving us a lovely wave, captain's wave, and blowing us kisses. It's really unusual to just see him and not hear him. So I've been very cheekily. Good morning, by the way. Let us know where you're listening in from. I can see there's already a lot of you in the chat room. I've been very naughtily showing him my boobies backstage to see if I could get him to give a reaction. And then I got this little note to say there's a woman sat right next to me, because I was a bit like, oh. So I have been thinking all morning, so how can I hijack Carl's show somewhat? Because as you know, whenever him and I sit next to each other doing a show, I'm always distracting him and trying to make him laugh. So give me some ideas. You know, if you've got some ideas on how I can mess him up. Oh, it's a good job I changed the overlay, right? So you don't have that cock on your face. I mean, who doesn't like a cock on their face first thing in the morning? I tell you what, it's so weird just hearing myself. So I need to bring in some of these amazing comments, and also put out that question. Today is your day where you can ask anything about Mr. M. Hang on one second. He's waving. I think it's because I've put the wrong overlay on again. There we go. We can see him. Oh, he's stroking the cock. What? Why are you going like this? What is it? Send me a little message. I tell you what, why don't you send us a message in the chat and I'll read them out so you can have your voice, Carl. So, today is Ask Anything About Mr. M Day. And also let us know what your pet peeves are. If you've got some pet peeves about being, a foreigner in Portugal, or what it's like to be an expat, then please do let us know. But let's start with some of these amazing comments that we've got in the chat room. So, first thing first, James, bless him. He knows that I'm here today, so I think he's been quite supportive. But he's written in Portuguese, and my eyesight's not so good. But I'm going to give it a go. This really isn't my favourite thing to do. Bom dia, Gumpers. Feliz segunda a todos. Como foi o vosso fim de semana? Como vão todos? How are you all doing? How was your weekend? Then he's given me a bit of a dad joke, I think. I changed all my passports to incorrect. So every time I forget it, it says incorrect. It's much better when Carl does it. I'm so sorry. So he's also sharing Bon Dia Alegria Gumpers, and he's found his way back. That's Thunder Duck. T-Duck is in the house again. It's so nice to have you back. Carl mentioned that you were having a little bit of a break. And so it's really, really nice to have you in. We've got a deep thought of the day: eat, drink, and love. The rest is not worth a nickel. And that's Lord Byron. Really, really good words there. We've got George Gordon Byron, simply known as Lord Byron, was an English romantic poet and peer. Now, For those of you that know a little bit about astrology, today is actually a really cool day. It's a new moon in Cancer. So all you Cancerians out there in the house, please let us know. But it's a good day for you. And also the North Node is changing. It's changing signs today. And it only does that every 18 months. The fact that we've got both of them happening at the same time is a pretty special day. It's a good day to do some stuff. Carl is saying excellent dad jokes and hola amigos. So that's all very nice and very clean as well. He's blowing kisses. How beautiful. So let's see what else we've got. We've got a Kane Sibia from Thunderduck, from T-Duck. Let me just go back. So he's saying Quercus suba, commonly known as a cork oak, is a medium-sized evergreen oak tree that needs very little light and loves warm temperatures. Cork comes from the bark of this noble tree. It's part one. Let's go to part two. It endures drought and makes little demand on soil quality and is regarded as a defense against desertification. Cork oak woodlands are home to a multitude of animal and plant species. And you've probably seen them around and about on your journeys and things, and they're really, really lovely to look at. Part three, then, it grows in Mediterranean regions, most particularly in Portugal, which has over 750,000 hectares of cork forests and a well-established cork industry of considerable economic importance. He goes on to say, the cork oak is an astonishing tree which can live 150 to 200 years, with its bark being harvested about 16 times, approximately once every 9 years. That's incredible. And he also says cork is mainly used to make corks, but also for heat and sound insulation, cork paper, badminton shuttlecocks. Not seen those. Cricket balls, fishing rods, tools, and even special devices for space industry. I wonder what they are. I've seen them on the walls in really coolly designed places. I know me and Mr. M quite like them at, where was it, Carl? In Avairu, the technology centre. Can you write it down for me? There's some really, really stunning displays of it. And he said the best part is that the cork oak is 100% natural, recyclable and reusable. Something to remember next time you pop open a bottle of your favourite Portuguese wine. Yeah, if I get the chance. Because normally that cork goes flying and that wine is just gone. Thunderduck, yay, good morning, Mrs. M. So we got some dad jokes. I'm going to do them first off because then I've got James joining me, and then a little bit later we've got Vitor joining me, and I don't think I'm going to get a word in edgeways because they do both like to have a good old chat. So let's use this quiet time to get through the dad jokes. Iron Man and the Silver Surfer teamed up. Does that make them allies or alloys? Okay, next one. I want to see, let's see if we can make Carl laugh. He's probably just going to laugh at my discomfort. I want to see the new documentary about how bridges are built. They say it's riveting. Was that a good one or a bad one? Is that a boom boom tish? No, that's the wrong one. That's the one, right? Yeah, okay. I'm afraid of negative numbers. I'll stop at nothing to avoid them. I think I got the timing right there. Okay, so James is laughing and we've got some people joining us. So bon dia to Sarah Yerman. It's nice to have you back. How you doing? Ancient Mariner. It's very, very nice of you to say hello and good morning, Sarah. We have got Deagle. Hello, Deagle. Oh, Carl's actually in, looks like he's heading into Lisbon now. Bon dia, Louisa and Gumpers, from a wet weekend in Belfast. Over 2 inches of rain from Friday evening. My goodness. And it's July as well. The European heat looks like it won't creep up north enough to Ireland and Britain. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. So how are you enjoying yourself? I mean, is it just like a big sort of humidity fest? I mean, what's going on there? Pretty bad for things like athlete's foot and stuff like that. I hope you can stay fungal free. Carl's going, ugh. Dougie's here. This is a late night X-rated stuff. Yeah, I like to mix things up a bit. We got Ian Turner saying bon dia Gumpers from a hot and sunny Greece. Family all in place and aside from the usual panics are all in good form. Do you know, that's so brave to go on holiday with your family. I mean, you obviously love them because you're always talking about meeting up and being a granddad and stuff. And I think it's really remarkable. We haven't actually braved that, have we, Carl? A big old family holiday yet, with the extended family, that is. Jean's here. Hey, hola, bon dia, alegria, do lindo mon carapacho. Sorry, I'm not very good at saying that, but how are you doing down there? Are you enjoying life down there? I hope so. Then we've got Ian Turner saying, God squad tip of the day, with temperatures due to drop here to 40 degrees here later in the week. Hydration is absolutely essential to stay healthy. The normal 2 litres of liquid rule becomes at least 3. Okie dokes. And is there something else you can do to hydrate? What other tips would you give, Ian? We've got Joal de Nord. Lord Byron reportedly is a distant relative of mine. Mum's maiden name was Byron. Wow. How are you doing? Because you've been on tour. Do you feel like you've missed Portugal? What was good about coming back, and what did you really enjoy about not being here? I'd love to know. Ian saying, of course, being on holiday means that some of that may be alcohol related. Yeah. But remember that it's also diuretic. So maybe take it with water. Okie dokes. That's very good advice. And certainly if I was going on holiday, that would I would be drinking wine and water at the same time. So we've got James saying, I even see Cork postcards here. You know what? It's funny. You do see lots of things made out of Cork. I've seen all these purses and like really weird, like people obviously buy it because it's being sold, but I can't imagine, anyone using these accessories. So I wonder who does buy those things. Deagle saying temperature in Belfast should be mid-teens, 16 to 18 degrees with little sunshine this month. Lots of slow growing plants and vegetables. Oh, bless you. And Owen saying morning, Louisa, and Carl on the road. Thanks, Owen. Sorry to sound random here. Was responding to Thunderduck reference to Lord Byron. That's all right, Joel. Hey, guess what? We've got 2 kittens. Yep, we've got kittens too now. So it's all going well here. I had to get them out right at the last minute because they were starting to pull on this and tapping away on pens and things. Annoying lovely little creatures they are. Got some more comments coming in. Okay, pics of oak set up. Yes. And the cork oak that we saw on the walls was at the PCI in Niavo. So I don't know if you've ever been to the PCI Centre, but it was really, really gorgeous. They had these really beautiful, almost like stained cork walls. They were utterly stunning. And yeah, Carl is right. We have got some pictures of the cork. Let's just have a look at it now. So this is what the cork oak looks like. Thank you, Carl, my executive producer. It's very good of you. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't really necessarily look that unusual, it kind of looks a bit like a British tree, but obviously it's kind of British in shape, I would say. But yeah, you do see them all around. And, when you're driving around and you see some trees and it looks like they've had like their bark ripped off, they're the cork oaks. Because they sometimes look like they've been really done in quite a brutal way. And here's another section of cork. Isn't that beautiful? That's really, really lovely. Now, Carl found something yesterday. Who likes Simply Red? Does anyone like them? Has anyone seen them in concert? But he was he's shaking his head, although he does do quite a good impression and does have a little bit of a Simply Red sing-along as part of his usual routines. But he found this in a bin. He's a bit of a skip diver on the sly. And, I mean, that is well old. I mean, where's that from? 1988. So they were playing in Cascais, 1988. And his question of the day, let me just bring this up. And I don't know if you're already part of his Learn About Portugal group on School. That's school.com. It's SKOOL.com. Learn About Portugal. Is it or GMP? Learn About Portugal. Okay, I've got the thumbs up there. That's good. So he does a daily quiz. And he's saying the Simply Red ticket pictured found strangely outside my house is a vintage performance in 1988 in Cascais with Portuguese band The Delphins opening the show. I don't know. I've not heard of them. Notice that the ticket price is in escudos. And if bought on the night is valued at 2,000 units of Portugal's former currency. In today's prices, how many euros would you have had to have parted with to see Mick Hucknall and the band that night in November? Would it be €3.20? Would it be €32? Or would it be €320? Do you know what? I'd be a bit gutted if I paid €320. So I wonder what's going to come up. So let us know. Let us know what you're thinking. Now, I don't know what you guys were up to over the weekend, but I was treated to a little bit of testosterone, and also it was almost like being back. He's frowning. It was almost, that's a nice reflection of you, babe. It was almost like being back home in Kent, because all of a sudden I was surrounded by a lot of people going, all right, how you doing? You know, and making all those. So we sorry about that. I've just put that on a few times. Yes, I do like to see Carl running around. A thoroughly English look to him there, playing a game of charity rounders. But did you see him wearing his hat? And the hat blew off a couple of times. But anyway, he actually did like 3 proper, what are they called? Not a hole in one. You know, where he does like he whacks it to the other side and runs all around. He got to 4th base, put it that way, 3 times, very, very simply. So it was it was really good, and it was good old family fun. So we met with Jacqueline Branco. I'd never met her before, but obviously she's a very good egg in this local area, and also a lovely netball team that I believe Carl interviewed last week. So it was a bit of a collaboration, and I think they all got together to raise some money for the local fire brigade. And so there was this amazing little expat gathering at the rugby club in Caldas, and we spent the afternoon watching rounders in my case, and then mostly people playing in this rather competitive, but like it looked quite benign, but it was secretly quite competitive knockout round, this championship of rounders. It was thoroughly British, but it was all right, you know, it was good, and they raised quite a lot of money. I think, how much was it, love? Over €700. It's over €700 for the Bombero. So that's amazing. So let's go back to some more comments. It looks like Carl's pulling into a coach station, actually. In fact, it'd be lovely to hear, Carl, what are you doing today? Because you are actually with Nunu today, aren't you, from Winsurance? Let us know in the... Yeah, I got that right. That's good to know. I'll come back to you in a minute. Let me know when you can talk and I'll bring you on. So we have got a few more comments coming in. Let me just bring it up. So Carpe Diem is saying hola todos. Welcome back to you. Hug a slug friend. Wallets, backpacks, shoes, all Cork. Jean saying shop known as Corkle in Tavira. And the bark is surprisingly hard on the outside of cork trees. That's interesting. You know, when I was reading about the trees being like 150 years old and that they had this really hard bark, you know, forgive me, but I did think of my mother-in-law just as Carl went off screen. That was good timing, wasn't it? Hopefully he'll be back with us in a second. Yeah, I was thinking about my mother-in-law then. I can't deny that. And I think she'd probably laugh at that, to be fair, because she is known as being scary grandma in our house, and in all the other houses of the extended family. So Carl is back now. Let's see if he can talk. Are you able to talk yet?
I can talk, yeah. Just getting off the bus. Set to the Yosh coach station. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's really cool. So you left at what time did your coach leave?
Say that again.
What time did your coach leave from SMDP?
7:10. I'm not usually up at that time, as you know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get up at about 8:15 to be ready for the 8:30 kickoff of the show. I'm not sure what my signal's like here either, but this is one of Lisbon's principal coach stations.
Yeah.
for Rede Expressos, the coach service, which is brilliant. I was on a coach with Wi-Fi. I was able to do a bit of writing, and it's great to be on the coach. It's pretty full.
What are you
I
writing?
need to get my Metro. Say again.
What are you writing at the moment?
My new columns for an English language Portuguese paper. More to follow.
What's that? 300 plus destinations in Portugal.
The coach, in some countries, travelling by coach is not seen as very glamorous, is it? Let's face it, it's the cheapest way to travel. But I think in Portugal, it's amazing. There's Wi-Fi on the coach. It was very, not luxurious exactly, but very comfortable. I can see the coffee and pastel de nata shop, so I'm going to make a beeline over there. I don't need to get some breakfast. I'll just walk around in the big circle, but I'm heading over to the Metro subway because Lisbon is so well set up and well connected. Hopefully I haven't left my laptop on the coach. And I've got off at the right place because when I was at Coimbra, I got off the coach to have a little comfort break. And then I got back on the coach and I looked and I thought, I don't recognise these people from the last leg of the journey. I got on the wrong coach. But fortunately, I could see my fellow travellers on the coach next door, so I ran off and jumped on the right one. And that was when I was heading to Porto, which was a really great trip. An early start at San Martinho de Porto. I think coach travel here is great.
Yeah.
Really good. So a lot of the stations here are really good interchanges. So I'm not having to walk very far to get to the metro station there.
Fantastic. And
I don't have to turn the camera. It'd be more interesting to turn the camera around, but I'm not sure how to do it. Go on, Deagle.
Deagle's asking, where is Carl going today?
I am meeting up with Nuri. He's invited me to join him for a company. I think I'm a passive, not inspector. What's the word? Observer. I think I'm an observer of some sort of corporate day that's going on. To give my view as a foreigner or as a stranger, and not directly inside the company. They just very kindly invited me to tag along. It's going to be a boat trip, so it's almost if I could catch a plane, there can be plane, trains, coaches today. But no, that's too much of a challenge. It's going to be great. I've never been. Well, I've been on the ferries in the Tejo. Of course, we all have, haven't we? The family have been across the water on the ferry, but this still, I think, is on a sailing boat. It's all a bit of a mystery, but I need to jump on a metro now and go a couple of stops to get a lift to Belém, where I think we're embarking.
Very nice. Oh, it sounds like...
I don't want to...
Go on.
But I can go to Lidl.
Yeah.
I probably need to stop now before I end up on an aeroplane by mistake.
Hey, before you go, Deagle is wanting to know, are you a new columnist or guest writer for the Portuguese Resident or the Portugal News?
Might be.
Which one, though?
All will be revealed. Who fancies the pastel de nata?
Yeah, I do. Bring one back for me tonight.
It's all the classics there. We've got some lovely folhadas. We've got risotto de camarões.
Yeah.
Oh my word! And a spinach quiche and a empada de frango. Oh my word! I need to move on and maybe get something to eat at my destination. I'm just wandering around aimlessly now, but it's really nice. It's just heady and exciting to be in the capital. At a time when everybody's going to work and people are heading to the airport. There's a buzz that we don't get necessarily in sleepy San Martinho de Porto.
Yeah, and we don't get it because we both work at home. So.
That's right. It's just amazing to be out. Here's the taxi rank outside. All the green and black cabs of Lisbon.
Cool. And he looks
waiting to take people to places. It's a beautiful day. Look at that sky.
Wow. Yeah.
And behind me, Setterios, the Seven Rivers station.
I remember it well.
And you're doing a great job. I'll leave you to it.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I can see James he's turned up in the back room. We've got some more comments to go through.
Yeah, he speaks Portuguese. You got to talk to him in Portuguese when he arrives.
Really?
Yeah. And one last wonderful part of Portuguese culture. Anyone who doesn't like a farturas first thing in the morning?
I have to say, when we first arrived in Portugal, we were very shocked when we saw farturas because we didn't know what they were. But they are, of course, these beautiful sugar-covered kind of like long
donuts, really, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to be confused with a fatura, a sugar-covered receipt or invoice.
And we've got Jacqueline here. Jacqueline, who we met yesterday in person.
Oh, superb. Lovely to meet you yesterday, Jacqueline.
And I actually just showed a clip of Carl running around and his hat blowing off. But yes, you have a good week too. It was amazing. And how much?
Yeah, great job.
I know you raised over €700 yesterday. Is there a final total? Because that was really quite something. We've got a couple more.
Right, I've got to go. I'm running late.
All right, love.
Ciao, ciao.
Have a great day.
Buon dia alegria, everybody. Ciao, ciao. See ya.
Ciao, ciao. Oh, gosh. I feel like I'm missing him now already. I'm just going to bring James on. And then if you don't mind, I'm just going to welcome some more people who have got some comments. Hey, James, how are you doing?
Bom dia.
Bom dia. How are you? How was your weekend?
Muito bem, obrigado.
Very nice.
I always say to Carl when he asks me how my weekend was, what's a weekend? But I did actually do one thing this weekend that was designated for the weekend, and that was the Festival do Pau in Mafra.
Okay.
So,
and what was that like?
Well, I went the first time last year. It was very much like last year. Some things are rearranged. Like most of the festas I see around, it was crowded and lots of booths with lots of food. Probably 60% of the little stations were for some kind of food, in addition to a whole wall of different restaurants representing their food fare. So, and
was
then
there a tourist stall?
Probably. I didn't see the word, but yes, I'm guessing they had pretty much everything. And the empath introvert in me doesn't enjoy crowded spaces for long, so it's nice to go. We only stayed about an hour or so and then left. And it was lovely the time I was there, but the amount of time was perfect. Otherwise, I would have been exhausted and just needed to sleep for the rest of the day.
Yeah,
so
I can imagine.
But that was not most weekends don't have some special event for us to go to locally. So that was sort of the weekend marker this particular weekend.
Yeah. Hey, James, I just realized you've actually got your own music, haven't you, that you come on to, and also one of these.
Yes.
Obviously, with Carl not being here, I've mucked that bit up. But let's I just want to welcome a few more people, and then once I've welcomed them, I will bring you on properly. You can stay on if that's all right, just in case somebody in Portuguese. Because with my eyesight, I do need to get some glasses, and it's really easy for me to read English, but like if I have to read something just a bit different and have to focus in, it really gets me.
Small fact before you get to that, I learned years ago that at least in English, I can't speak for other languages, but at least in English, if we have 50% of the information we need from reading, we can read it.
Yeah.
So we can have the top half or the bottom half or every other letter, and we can still make it out. So for you, not needing glasses for English would make sense. It's familiar enough. You can make enough of it out to then translate
that's so true. Carl is just coming back on, so let's just see if he wants to say something, because no doubt
always wants to say something.
Exactly. Let me just take off this overlay. Love, where are you?
Ooh, he's
in the tube station now. The tube's about to arrive, as you can see there, coming out through the tunnel. I love this. The metro in Lisbon. Look, here we go.
Here it is.
The red line.
Yeah.
Or is it the blue line? No,
What
those
line
are the
are you
doors.
I think
Red.
James is right. Is he at the Familiar? I'm not sure. I just need to know. I know I need to go to the stop.
All right. Well, you're breaking up a bit, so I'm gonna just leave you on in the background, but carry on chatting with James. Okay? Are you waving goodbye?
He's giving himself a hand.
Oh, how sweet. Right. So let's yeah, you're right about that, you know, with your eyesight and stuff. It's very easy to just like zero in when you don't have to concentrate. It's much easier. So anyway,
Yeah.
you were asking.
I don't need glasses yet. I'm still waiting.
You're just wearing those for effect. So you're asking about testosterone treatments. No, I'm not having testosterone treatment. I was treated to some testosteronic displays yesterday with all these like hot, sweaty men legging it around rounders. Are you good with a bat?
Not particularly. I used to play baseball a bit when I was younger and some softball later, but
yeah,
never particularly great at it.
Yeah, I'm not very sporty either. So anyway, we've got some more comments coming in. I just want to read out. So this is from you, obviously. Great name for a wine, Simply Red. Yep. Sarah's saying, we've had a lovely non-family vacation. The son and his girlfriend went off to America and left us here to be completely irresponsible. It's been lovely. What does being irresponsible mean?
And why do you have to be responsible with your children?
That's such a good question, isn't it? So, Joao Donot is saying, Louisa, we love being back home. Of all the places we visited, Portugal is confirmed to be our favourite for being grounded, down to earth, and culturally inviting. Well, that's fantastic. Deagle is saying, Cork in Ireland is the county bottom of Ireland. Nickname for County Cork is the Rebels Rebel Country or County.
Rebels Rebel County. Wow,
that sounds great.
That's quite rebelling.
Yeah, it is. Carpe Diem is saying our entire house is clad in cork and it's just started to go on this week. Oh, wow. Can you send some pics? I'd love it. I would really, really love to see that, Carpe Diem, because I think people will be really interested in that. And also a bit on your journey about how you sourced it and why you wanted to clad it in port sounds good, but why you wanted to clad it in cork? Is it for environmental reasons, aesthetic? I'd love
bouncing off the walls.
Yeah, that sounds quite good. I mean, we could do that. We could do with that in here for soundproofing, and also to put little notes on the wall. Joao is saying Norway is stunning and lovely, but so damn expensive. €35 for fish and chips. My goodness. Like, you can probably do that. I don't know how much it is in the UK now, but I'm sure you can do it for much less. Are we there yet? Deagle is saying, is anyone else buffering Louisa's freezing in this Simply Red story? Well, hopefully it's all
that
moved
was a
on.
while ago.
Yeah. Sarah's saying the Delphins are well worth knowing. They've more or less stopped, but wrote some really great songs. Look for some of them in the supergroup Resistencia. Okie dokes, will do. Thank you for that. And a few more comments coming in. We've got Lee McGrady saying, good morning, people. Squire of the Shires is saying, have a great venture today, Carl. Thunderduck, we get a paper version of both the Resident and the news. They're great for reading at the kiosk. Fantastic. And you will be seeing Carl in one of them. Actually, two of them, because one of our great contributors has actually written an article about gumping. And if I can find it later, I'll read it out. If not, Carl will do it.
Can we say that in public?
Yeah. You know who it is, don't you? It's Dougie. Dougie has put in an article about gumping. Do you know what gumping is?
Well, there was a definition I heard that I decided, no, that's not how I'm going to know the word.
And of course, that definition is it sniffing other people's poo?
Yes.
Like poo
I
sniffing.
think specifically from a toilet. I mean, it just was like, why would anyone? And I'm a therapist. Like I never ran into anybody who like that. Oh, my fetish. What I really enjoy doing is like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not my thing either. I was talking with somebody yesterday about using the toilets, and someone was saying that, it's really good to use the disabled toilets when you've got a family and stuff. And I was just like, oh no, I don't like doing that, because so many people just use those toilets to do a number 2 in, because they've got a bit more privacy. And I can't stand the gumping. I can't stand
the unintentional gumping.
Yes, it's horrible.
Now that would be a great article title, The Unintentional Gumper.
Yeah, well, you can write it if you like, and I'm sure we'll put it up for you. So Thunderduck saying, I love the Lisbon Metro. That's the blue line. Deagle's also adding in, when in Portugal, I buy the Portugal news in paper and buy a couple of bola in Portuguese and try to translate when I get home and practice my learning. That's wonderful. Right, let's talk about what you did over the weekend, and also what you're learning right now. Like, what's occurring to you at the moment in terms of migration and being mindful, James? Like, what's arising in you right now?
Well, it's not unusual for me to have one or two reflections on something that was talked about in the previous week. And in talking about, I kind of have a mindful missing part 2, because I have a position that if we're going to complain, we should supply solutions. Like, complaining is just complaining, and it doesn't do any good unless we have some, what can we do about it? So I had a couple of ideas about what we could do if we're missing, but we didn't get that far. But last week, one of the things that what I said I was missing was essentially wilderness. Wilderness. Essentially unhuman inhabited wild places that have been left relatively undisturbed. And it reminded me of a great documentary I saw. I think it was National Geographic documentary. As part of their Wild series, and Wild Alaska, Wild this, Wild. They also had a Wild Portugal.
Okay.
And that it's just an amazing documentary. So I just want to let people know, if they are interested in looking at the wild places in Portugal, that is a fantastic documentary to watch. Carl made mention when we were talking about labels, and me as a therapist not labeling people with their quote unquote disorders. And he made the comment that for a while, labels can be comforting. Yeah. Because, it's like, oh, it's this. And I got to thinking about it, as I do, that I don't think it's the label. I think it's what the label implies. And the label implies that it's a real thing. The label implies that I'm not alone. There are other people experience the things I'm experiencing. And there's comfort. There's always comfort in that, knowing you're not alone, and having a sense of what you're experiencing makes sense on some level. I think that's really where the relief comes from, is that, not the label itself. Most people I am familiar with don't like having a label. Don't call me this, except, well, there are some exceptions. In personality types, some people seem to love labels.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, I'm a this, I'm a that.
Yeah. Well, they you're right. They have a definite great side, and also a sort of darker side as well. And you're right. I mean, you identified yourself as an introvert, didn't you? And an empath. And I would definitely agree that I'm like that as well. And so I find, when I'm in crowds, I'm a little bit not intimidated, but I just get a bit overwhelmed. Like, there's too much sensory data going on.
Mm-hmm. The energy of it,
yeah. So when do you find labels are most negative, in connotation? How
well, I was going to say that the advantage to a label is it's kind of shorthand. What I said last week is that a label just basically gives us an idea of what's on the inside of the container.
Yeah.
Right. So the label can help with that. I can say introvert, and most people go, oh, this. And a lot of people will be wrong in terms of, oh, they're socially not graceful, they don't like people, they can't stand up in front and deliver a speech in front of a lot of people. All of that is incorrect in terms of what introversion includes. It
Yeah.
mostly has to do with managing energy. It has to do with, I say, the shortcut to understanding. If you want to do a really short, on the street assessment of whether you tend toward introversion or extroversion, find out where you get your charge and what drains you.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing, because like both Carl and I are quite happy to go on screen, to do speeches, to facilitate and stuff. But for me, I need peace and quiet to be able to focus. Whereas Carl, he's just like tap, 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 chatting away to people. And that really charges him up.
Yes. Yeah. For me, the stereotype is after a significant social function, for me, it's usually if it's got lots of people I don't know, because I'm not familiar with them. The introvert will want to go home and take a nap, and the extrovert will be looking for the after party.
Yeah.
That's just a short stereotypical assessment. And of course, there's all kinds of testing and profiles to see, how far on it you want to get. But I think we have a sense of who we are in those regards. So, yes.
And how does that affect being, an expat, like starting out? Because I think, obviously, my experience of people that move to a different country is that at some level, people are usually wanting to escape something and also wanting to embrace something new, which sets us apart somewhat from most people that are actually quite happy with where they are, or if they're not happy, they're prepared to stay with what they know and not challenge themselves. So what would you say for the introverted migrants that are coming over? Like who is most challenged, the more introverted or extroverted?
I think the challenge is different.
Yeah.
I think we're both challenged, but we're challenged in different ways. I think we both have ways of dealing with it that are effective, but we do that differently. The introvert in me said, if I'm going to move, I'm going to be completely on my own, because I moved on my own. My family's grown, so it'd be just me in this brand new place. Just me in a brand new place with this idea that there's all these strangers that I would have to get to know was overwhelming. But if I could remind myself, I don't really need to be around a lot of people a lot of the time anyway. So being solo will be fine for me, because I don't need that interaction so much. Secondly, I was very aware that, human contact is healing and necessary. So that would be, okay, now I'm going to be in a totally strange place, generally okay on my own. But will want to meet people. And I'm not someone who's going to tend to walk up to somebody and say, hey, I'm James, what's your name? How you doing? To a total stranger. Carl is much more like that. Hank is very much like that. He'll just walk up and just go do it. Me, not so much. So what I did is, from my comfortable home in California, I got online and I looked for Facebook groups because at that point I was interested in Ericeira. So I looked for Facebook groups in Ericeira, and I started connecting in a very comfortable way with people who were already in a platform that says, come join us.
Yeah.
Right. And then I could engage or not engage without the discomfort of feeling like I'm being rude, or someone might misunderstand me, or whatever might happen in a public situation. So I managed to make connections prior to ever getting off my couch, basically from home, so that when I got here, I didn't have to go introduce myself to strangers to get to know people who are already here. So that's, I think, a good strategy for an introvert. An extrovert's concern might be, I'm going to get there, I'm going to be all alone, and I don't know anybody. I need to go meet people, and they might be afraid in that, or they might be excited about that. But I think in some ways they're better prepared to make a landing, because they relish that human interaction, and strangers are a great way to get energy, to charge their battery. So their strategy would be different, but they would also have different fears. So I always try with any kind of labeling to understand that there are assets and liabilities to any label.
Yeah.
And that there's nothing good or bad or right or wrong about it. It's just, as I said, a way to identify what's in the container. So, by talking about my approach, that gives you a deeper knowledge of me with that label.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, James will get on and talk in public. He seems to speak well. When I've met him in person, he's socially engaging. So I would never imagine him as an introvert. Well, that's because those aren't qualities of introversion.
Yeah.
Introversion is how much effort is it for me to engage with you in that way, not consciously so much, but that's a drain on me. It requires my battery to be charged to do that. Where an extrovert, that's where they get the charge. They walk into that and that's like, oh, now I'm ready to go. Who else can I meet? Is more the energy of it. And then the result is when I'm done, I want to take a nap. When they're done, they're looking for the after party.
Yeah.
And again, it's all stereotypical, but that's how I define it. So for me, as an introvert immigrating, it was a function of doing some preparation. It was what I've heard in this community and really like is the soft landing. Like I had stuff in place. And matter of fact, again, on a more spiritual level, so many things just started lining up for me. I wasn't even trying to make it happen. I was looking for a language exchange with somebody on one of these Ericeira sites. And the only person who responded said, yes, I'd be interested. Her name was Louisa. And I'm now living in a studio unit that is her converted garage, and have dinner with the family at least on a weekly basis. We went. They and I went to the festival yesterday, so they become family as a result of this soft landing effort that I was making. In addition, things like, well, actually, where I live and getting picked up at the airport and brought home was a function of me saying, anyone interested in a language exchange?
Yeah.
So I got all those benefits just by trusting it was going to be okay. I believe that if we can breathe in trust and exhale fear, that things will work out, usually in I say it's like dumping a jigsaw puzzle out on the table and then watching it put itself together.
Yeah. That's a really beautiful analogy, in fact.
Yeah. And occasionally you see a piece over and bring a piece here, or that piece goes there. But for the most part, it just seems to come together quite smoothly.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to wait for a piece to drop as well. That piece might be ready to reveal itself.
Where's that piece? I don't see it. Just breathe. Oh, there it is. Yes. Yeah. And sometimes not that fast, obviously, but yes. So that was my experience, and that's what I recommend. I've had a few people say, because I mention introversion, they go, "Oh, I'm introverted too. How did you manage that?" Well, I've been able to share my personal experience in that story.
I wonder if introversion is more acutely associated with longer term journeys rather than these short, busy holidays, because this is the 4th or 5th country that I've lived in, and I've never really done any packaged holidays, but I've had long experiences of being in another country for like 5 years, 6 months, 9 months, and now here almost 6 years in a month's time. And I guess I like to do things slowly and slowly get the fragrance of the place, the taste of the place, the sound of the place, and do it on my terms in a way that, I guess people who are slightly more extroverted might just be very happy to meet with the terms that other people put out, these like activities, excursions and things like that in a sort of very organized and slightly more rational way. But yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know that that's more rational. It's just, I mean, it's rational for them as extroverts, but it's rational for the introvert to do it more slowly. And that to me goes to, again, it's all about energy. The extrovert loves energy. They love being active. They love engaging. They love, that. So doing a series of short tours would be, I would imagine, great fun. Opportunities to meet new people, see new things, and that, again, what is described that way can be interpreted as either a very exciting, fun way of doing it or a horrifying way of doing it, depending on whether whether you incline toward introversion or
Yeah.
extroversion.
Yeah.
And I think the taking time is, I don't know that it's so much a time factor as it is it's more, and I don't want to say quality because that diminishes the extrovert's experience. It's a quality experience for them as well, but
Of course.
it's knowing more deeply, I guess, taking my time to really get to know something before I move on along that line. So that does require time. If I'm another stereotype is the introvert, if you use Facebook as an example, the introvert has 67 friends, 60 of whom they don't really know. The extrovert has 8,525 friends and has probably partied with all of them, right? So
doesn't know any of them.
Yes, and maybe not know any of them or know all of them a little bit.
Yeah.
And extroverts have very deep, long-term, close relationships as
Yeah.
well. So I'm not saying it's a shallow lifestyle by any means. It's just a different approach. The introvert is satisfied with a slower pace and fewer interactions. The most common thing I've heard from the extroverts that I've known is that whatever I'm up to is boring. That's boring.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not boring for me. Your lifestyle is just like, I'm exhausted just thinking about how you live your life, right? So it's just the difference. And we need, I say the reason there's so many people on the planet is because we all need each other and everybody has somebody that they can connect with.
Yeah.
And introverts and extroverts can be great friends. My extrovert friend told me a joke. How does an introvert make a new friend? And the answer is an extrovert introduces them.
Oh no, you used the wrong sound.
That was a good one.
Not that one either. That's the one I needed. Where's Mr. M when you need him? We've got some more comments coming in, so let me just welcome some more people. So we've got lovely Soli Finesse. Bon dia, good morning. I hope you had fun yesterday at Pit Stop. Thunderduck is saying, Deagle, where do you buy the paper copy? I've never seen them for sale. We get them delivered. They both show up on Fridays. 1 second. Solly, I need you to go into the other room. No. I need you to go and find Digby. Sorry, managing childcare and this at the same time.
Well done.
Yeah, it's quite something. Sarah Yerman, yep, Setrios is the zoo station. I know that Thunderduck is a real fan of that. Nunu's joining us. Good morning, Louisa and James and the amazing...
Nunu, bon dia, meu amigo.
So that's who Carl's going to be hanging out today with. I think he's really looking forward to it. It's going to be a really nice change of pace for him. Deagle saying small shop kiosks in and around Albufeira. The big supermarket in Albufeira downstairs has a good newspaper section. I do know that those newspapers that Carl's been featured in, they are more of an Algarve thing than a Silver Coast thing. So who knows what other things are coming. We've got a bon dia from Solar Life Portugal. That's Pete, Mrs. M, James, Deagle, Lee, TD, Sarah.
Hola, Pete.
Hope you had a great weekend. We did. And we've got Vitor waiting in the wings. We'll bring him in a second. But let's just finish because we started this conversation talking in terms of labels. I mean, you've just explored a little bit of introversion, extroversion labels. What other labels do you see being commonly used that you might have a comment on?
Well, as a therapist, there's lots of labels, so we don't need to get into those details.
We've got a question for you, if I may, from Shabbat Nort.
Sure.
Who is saying, what are your thoughts on Myers-Briggs personality types regarding the introvert-extrovert scale? I appreciate how it gives you a nuance to what many mistake as binary. I would agree with that because I know what I am, and I've got a very good friend who is a trained Myers-Briggs personality person who spent many an afternoon explaining it to me. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think as a test, it's been shown to be, I always get the two terms, both valid and, what's the second one?
You got
Anyway,
feeling.
there's two measures for any test or any survey. We've talked about this a little bit previously as well. One is, does it actually test what it professes to test? Reliability, and the other, or validity, and the other one is reliability, which is, does it score the same across many boundaries?
Yeah.
For a test to be reliable, it has to measure or has to get a similar, nearly same result with very little variance by anyone who takes a test. The validity is, does it actually test for what it says it's testing for? And Myers-Briggs consistently is measured pretty highly in both those areas.
Yeah.
For me, the caution with any test that supplies a label, which again is just shorthand for describing what's inside the container, is that people tend to want to identify, like, I am that, as opposed to I have these traits.
Yeah.
So I am more likely on that side, and most measurements are a continuum.
Yeah.
From full on to right in the middle to absolutely the opposite.
Yeah.
And nobody generally falls in any one of those places specifically, but it's just a way of measuring. So my caution with any of these types of things is just understand what it is. Is it a reliable and valid test, as the Myers-Briggs has shown historically to be? And what does that mean to me? If I measure this or I measure that, what do I relate to? What don't I relate to? How am I similar to those traits, and how am I not similar to those traits, as opposed to, yeah, that's my number, and any scale, astrology, that's my sign, Myers-Briggs, that's my personality type, all those things. People love to say, I am that. It's like, no, you have traits that can be explained by a set of traits.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the things I quite like about Myers-Briggs is the fact that it's testing you on a few different, almost like sliding scales, isn't it? From introversion to extroversion. Then you've got like the intuitive sensing, like intuitive knowing, and then a kind of more rational sensing. What's your preference on
fact-based?
Fact-based, or more sort of gut feeling. And then like you've got your feeling and thinking. And then your sort of preference in terms of being organized or being very sort of free and spontaneous. And I found that earlier in my career, if I was tested, I often came out more in the E, but that was more because of the jobs I was doing at the time, and just sort of imagining myself whilst answering those questions, but more
what I'm required to do as opposed to what I'm inclined to do.
Yeah, absolutely. But I have found it quite useful. And Carl and I have some very shared traits, and both of us are on the middle, like just literally a little bit to one side or a bit to the other on both. So it is quite helpful just to differentiate from time to time. I wonder what you are, Joelle, if you found that quite useful. I quite like how there are some types of very, very unusual, like maybe 1 or 2 or 3%. Are particular types, and then a lot of people are very there are lots of ESTJs, but not many INTJs and things like that.
So that system much better than I ever did, but yes.
Well, like people like Elon Musk, and people that are very sort of very much talking to themselves and quite introverted but quite technical. You find them just like in a really, really small subgroup, and then quite a few of these like world leaders fall in another subgroup. It's fascinating to me. I really quite like it.
Yeah, I don't know if Myers-Briggs has factored it in or not, but a relatively new personality trait that was researched for me, feels like 5 years ago, so that means it had to be at least 10. But is excitement seeking.
Yeah.
They've determined, oh, that's a personality trait. Some people just relish like jumping out of a plane and with a parachute, and
Yeah.
other people prefer to sit on the bench and watch the children play in the amusement park. So there's that.
I'm a bit wary of people like that, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, okay, let's call it the stuff holder, the person who holds the stuff while everyone else rides the ride. That person.
Yeah.
So, and I used to think, oh, well, that there must be a correlation between introversion, extroversion, and excitement seeking, assuming that the introvert would be toward the less excitement seeking. But then I started looking in my own life and I tend toward lower excitement seeking and introversion. So that's why I assumed, oh, that's the way it is. But then I started looking around in my own field of the few people I know. I knew extroverts who were not excitement seekers and introverts who just love jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah, I won't jump out of an airplane, but I am quite spontaneous and introverted. I think we should bring Vitor on in just a second, because I'm sure he's got something to add to this, because he's also quite an unusual thinker. I suspect on the cusp between like introvert, extrovert as well. He's got quite a few styles.
Again, what's he inclined to versus what does the job require? The job requires that extroversion. Yeah, so let's find out. That's great.
I'm sure he's got something to add to this. I just want to bring in a couple more comments. So we've got Pete saying, there are quite a few things we've noticed that make life a lot easier for introverts in Portugal. People genuinely don't care about appearances, and although appear standoffish, they beam if you smile and make an effort. I love that. And I love that you noticed that as well, Pete. I think that's really nice.
Well, and it's a much more, well, I won't say much more. It's a very humble culture, and it's quieter. And all of those things tend to be like, for introverts, that's soft. That feels nice,
Yes. And I'm sure there are cultural ones as well. I'm pretty sure, a lot of the ideas that we have about America is probably very ESTJ, it's like, wow, like really loud, quite rational. And, and the UK as a stereotype might be INTJ or ISTJ, Joao saying, Joao, I don't quite remember what it was. I'm thinking I was being borderline ENTJ and INTJ. I need to take the test again and find out. It'd be interesting to see what the community comprises of. We've also got Thunderduck saying, smash that like button. And no, I meant to do this one. Thank you for that. And let's bring Vitor on. I'll give him and you a warm hand as well. What? Got a bit of an echo there. I don't know if that's still going on. There's a weird sound sensation, as if I was in water.
Does my sound okay?
Yeah, I think so. I can hear you, but I had a bit of a feedback then, but I think it's okay. So how are you doing, Vitor?
I'm shy.
You're shy. What? Today or just in general?
No, in general.
Yeah. And
that doesn't necessarily mean you're introverted, but it's certainly one of the indicators. Yes.
Actually, I do pretty well in almost any kind. I'm the kind of guy who would jump out of a plane and, all right, let's figure out how to make a parachute before I land.
Okay, super excitement seeking.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Maria is the opposite, though. And in fact, I think you were talking about languages a while ago, and Maria is actually working on making Portuguese language courses and talk groups focus around introverts. So it would be like 6 people maximum or something like that, because some people feel more comfortable that way, right? It's like, hey, I want to learn Portuguese, but I don't want to be in a classroom, be judged by all of the people listening to my silly mistakes. So if it's just one-on-one, okay. Or like just a small group that are all the same. Anyway, I don't remember what I am either, because it's been years since I've done a test like that.
So how are you doing anyway?
I'm doing great-tastic.
What's going on in your world right now, Vitor, for you and Maria? And
it's doing great. We are remaking our business plans and how we're heading and what we're gonna do to get there. Coming up with some other services to offer our people. The Portuguese lessons is one of them, but even the way we work, we're going to do some things differently, straightforward our process even more, so we can help more people and help them faster.
Yeah. Fantastic. And like how has your life and your world changed actually in the last few years? Like, were you always orienting yourself towards welcoming people into the world, or is that more of a new thing for both of you?
Welcoming people into the world. Can you clarify that?
Well, welcoming people into your world of Portugal. Sorry.
He's not delivering babies.
Yeah.
Not yet, anyway. Not yet.
I have a feeling you'd do quite well at that. You'd keep quite calm.
No, I mean it's our lives are completely different from what they were just a few years ago, right? So I definitely wasn't the same person like 5 years, like completely different. If I was to have a conversation with myself like 5 years ago, I wouldn't have understood myself now. But you know, we're always evolving. I feel like every week I'm a much better person than I was a previous one. So since we started helping expats, and your guys' channel was in large part how I started kind of doing this, was also really fruitful for us, because the more we work with foreigners that want to come here, the more we start seeing things about our own country that we didn't even realize were special, right? We always took for granted. And I actually started appreciating and discovering Portugal a lot more since I've been doing this. So it's been great. It's been fruitful. And more than everything else is we really get the feeling that we're helping someone and that we're causing a positive impact. More than just, if we were to just stick with people and the Portuguese real estate, I'm sure I would give them value as well.
Yeah.
But I can give so much more value to someone coming here because it's such a different experience. It's a different everything. And there are more help that people need when coming here. And we want to be the person on their side to help them out with the whole process and doubts and questions and, even knowing if Portugal is the right place for them, because it has a lot of good things, but certain things don't work well with everybody. It's like food. Some people like spicy, some like sour, some like whatever. And it doesn't mean that one food is better or worse than the other, but some people can do spicy, some people can do sour, some people can't do bitter. So it's a matter of, okay, what are your tastes like? What makes you sick? What doesn't? And then, that's basically it, I guess.
Well, beyond that, Vitor, what I've experienced from you is not only, like, I really appreciate the side that's helping the immigrants, because you're about helping people. But in addition to that, what I've seen you doing is that you are creating alliances with the Portuguese people, that you're benefiting them as well. You're putting them together. How can I help you by helping them? And that, I think, is what makes you and your approach unique and special, is that you're taking care of both sides and being successful in that.
Yes, that's also true. I really believe that by helping each other, everybody can benefit. Like
everybody wins, yeah.
If you have a business, right? I don't care if you sell a product, a service, whatever it is. I send someone your way, whether paid client or not, even if I don't earn a commission or anything out of it, I do believe that everybody benefits, because you get happy because you get a new client. The client gets happy because they get served. I get happy because I help someone, right? And whatever we give into the universe comes back to us.
Yeah, and I also think if you're pushing people to the right solution for them, like really listening to them and doing what's right by the person, even if it means you're doing yourself out of a commission, people remember that. They remember that you're the person that helped them to feel good, and that really listened to them and wasn't trying to rip them off or anything. And I think that's very special and quite unique in these times, actually. I just want to share something that our good friend Joao Denort's sharing, because I think this may well come up in terms of a cultural difference. So he's saying Portugal stereotypically is more I and Spain more E. And I do think I haven't spent too much time in Spain, but I do really remember the sort of very different.
Where's Solomon?
He's right behind.
He's behind the chair.
He's behind me.
Case of the disappearing child.
Yeah. I do remember, like, on our way to Portugal, spending a little bit of time in Spain and finding it a lot more. It didn't feel quite as personalized. And with Portugal, I really do get a feeling that things are a lot more personalized and a lot less showy. People, I really got this strong sense of, that things were very genuine and actually quite sweet and quite innocent here, which I really appreciated. And of course, that may well change from north to south as well. But I really find that useful. Thanks, Joao. We've also got a couple of comments from Pete I just want to share. So he's saying, glad you went to the Festa with the family, James. We just love community events and celebrating such a vast array. Sorry, can you stop? and celebrating such a vast array of local produce, people, places, and above all, traditions. In London, these events are neither open to everyone, free, or unrestricted by age. And that's definitely something I've found in our area as well, is that everybody's invited and everybody's included, and it's just really, really lovely. In fact, kids are really included in this culture, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right now, no
argument there. I don't have a lot of experience with these kinds of events in other countries. Maybe that's another thing I'm taking for granted, right?
I tell you what, I'm just going to mute myself. If you guys don't mind just chatting. Sure. I'm just going to sort out this little one. One sec.
Sure, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Well, this is an opportunity for me to share an experience I had yesterday at the Festival do Pão. I had my order all figured out. I was able to order it in Portuguese. It's funny, all this food, and I hadn't had a bifana for, I don't know, nearly a year. And I said, oh, I just want a bifana. And so I ordered that, and it said, com batatas fritas. And I said, all right, with French fries, perfect, I'll get that. So I ordered it, and I got potato chips.
Yeah, but
and I said, wait a minute. How do you make that distinction? If you want fries,
you don't.
You just take what you get, which is what I did.
You kind of have to ask, because batatas fritas literally means fried potatoes.
Yes, and so it's accurate.
Fried, right? So you figure it out.
So
maybe you would hear the distinction, batatas fritas de pacote. So like package fries. Right? But yeah, batatas fritas can mean either.
Yes. So I got the bifana I wanted, and I didn't get the fries I wanted. So that was a good trade-off.
Yeah, well, but bifana, if it's a good bifana, it will make up for it.
Yes, exactly.
We had some really great bifanas yesterday at the rugby club. We had such a great time. The people there were really amazing, very, very helpful, so friendly. I've always noticed that. It's just like the welcome that you get in Portugal is really, really great. So where were we before I had to do a bit of child manhandling?
I think we were talking about saving people from burning buildings.
Yeah, or being what's superpower, something along that line. I don't.
Yeah.
I think it was something along that.
The superpowers are gained. Some are genetic, and others you kind of make tech for it. So like Batman, he's all from training and the technology he uses.
And truthfully, we were talking about win-wins. We're talking about helping both sides.
I was going to say
the benefit of referrals. People know people. So you help somebody and don't make money, someone's going to send someone your way where you do make money. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Louisa was like, huh.
Yeah,
I don't quite seem to remember that conversation.
No, I was thinking they're taking a piss. Let's see where this goes.
But yeah, creating connections. That's one of my goals. One of my missions is to create a connection with as many professionals and service providers and everything as I can, so that whenever someone needs anything, I know who the best person for the job is.
That'd be a great byline, Vitor.
No, creating, we have an electricity thing now, and the prices have already gone up this July, and we're so happy that we changed already. You guys probably won't notice a big change in your bill. It will likely be a bit lower still. But just so you know, if you hadn't changed your electricity contract, you'd be paying almost 50% more.
Really? How is all that going for you, Vitor? Because, I mean, if you remember when you were telling us about it, I was really grilling Carl about it live on air, saying, I'm not sure. But it has actually gone very seamlessly. It's gone very well.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we do get paid a little bit for that, but to give you an idea, like on our case, doing a contract for a whole house, a domestic house, maybe pays us like 30 euros for a year, right? Yeah. So that's next to nothing. But I know that I'm saving hundreds of euros on people's electricity bills. For example, one of the latest clients that we helped find a 2-bedroom in Braga, renovated, a really lovely place. Everything is electrical. I even talked to one of his lawyers from Braga. He's awesome. I'm going to be working with him as well.
Excellent.
And he saw their apartment, and then we were talking because he also helps a lot of people relocate here. And I asked him, hey, by the way, do you usually help people with electricity contracts? Yeah, I usually go with EDP. Okay, then we need to talk about it later so you know what this does. Did you see their apartment? Yes, I did. Can you guess how much they paid in electricity? And he said, I don't know, maybe about 100. Right, they paid 30.
Yeah.
Like a modern all electrical apartment, right? Because we did an indexed contract for them. I don't know. I think yours is probably indexed. Ours still needs to be changed because we started with a fixed. But all that to say that that's another thing I want to help people. Hey, you're going to come here. You're going to need electricity. I don't feel right unless you have all of the information and still decide to do that. But I don't feel right knowing that you're paying a lot more for the exact same service and thing that you're getting that you could be doing, because I don't go for cheap, right? I would rather pay sometimes twice as much for something that I know will be better quality or have a better service or whatever.
Yeah.
But if it's the exact same thing, if you're really not getting anything extra for that money, then okay, don't spend it. Go with the more affordable alternative.
If I may just add something, as somebody moving here or somebody who has moved here and had a few winters here, one thing you don't fully appreciate, like in a UK sense, our bills tend to be quite, they tend to rise up a little bit in the winter and then they go down a little bit in the spring, and then but it's like a gradual rise. It's not like a really steep incline. I mean, it may be now, like 5 years on, but it's been quite gradual because a lot of people, have their heating on from maybe late September right through to early May, and then during the summer, it goes down a little bit. But here in Portugal, like all of a sudden, you definitely do need a lot more
a new job.
Like one thing we've noticed, like from our first few years here, was like we were paying next to nothing for electricity throughout the year, and then November, December, January, February, all of a sudden it went whew, in a way that was like more than all of the months put together just for 1 month in the winter. It was really shocking, to go from maybe 20-30 euros a month to suddenly up to 350 a month or something.
Oh, that could also that would also have to do with estimates, because another thing is that they estimate your consumption, right? So okay, they've been spending about this much electricity per month, and then every 3 months, if you don't have there's some confusion here, and now that I'm getting some training on electricity, I can explain that. I'm sure it will be helpful for many, right?
Well, it made sense to us because we were actually using heaters in the winter.
But
all the
way
time.
it works, you have the old electrical counters that basically have like a circle that spins and spins and spins. They're all becoming replaced with the smart counters, right? That are more automatic and modern. But here's the thing: even if you have a smart counter, and those are connected to, they call it the PT, Posto de Transformação, or transformation post thing. So it's kind of like a hub where it receives the medium voltage tension cables there, and then distributes it into the homes, the apartments, and whatever is using electricity in the area, right? And your counter, your electricity counter, even if you have a modern one that sends the counter minute by minute to the PT, also may or may not have a modern counter that sends the minute by minute readings, accurate readings to the operator. So even if you have a modern one and there's not a modern PT, there still needs to be a person that goes there every 3 months, takes in the measurements, and then you get the accurate bill that represents the thing. I think, like on the case of EDP, I don't know if others of this or not, but I know that my dad was with EDP. And last year, he paid a certain amount, relatively low throughout all of the year. And then end of the year, okay, here's the actual measurements. You need to pay 500 something extra for the difference. So yeah.
Thanks for explaining that. Vitor, given that you're kind of a lot more in the world than I am, like in the Portuguese world, and that you were just talking about smart technology, like smart meters, I've got a question for you. Like we've been hearing quite a lot about the idea of 15-minute cities in the UK, and the creation of them, that they seem to be coming in. Is there a similar thing going on in Portugal? I've heard that there is sort of like different zones cropping up around Lisbon.
15-minute cities. Is that like those kinds of cities where you can get anything done in 50 minutes?
Well, I think the whole idea is, like governments are all talking about climate agendas and how we, like to save the planet, different, like in Oxford, for instance, in the UK, they're having like these zones that you can drive in and you're not allowed to drive out, or you have an allowance of how often you leave that place, or there's extra costs to leave that place. And the whole idea is that the city starts to build in all the resources that you might need within a 15-minute radius.
That sounds nightmarish.
Yeah, it does sound like marriage. It sounds like lots of different things.
I haven't heard anything. I hadn't heard anything of the sort around here, and hopeful. The sense I get is that Portuguese people as a whole, they're very much like, hey, you do you, have fun, whatever.
Yeah.
But they are highly resistant to all of these, trends and things that go out there, right? Yeah. I mean, recycling. We have recycling bins and all of those things. But when people start doing these more dramatic demonstrations and political stuff, it's like, shut up, just let me do my thing.
Well, I'm curious to ask about, like, obviously, if the EU start to enforce some of these things, how, like, like at the moment, the EU has like I think Holland at the moment, the Netherlands is reclaiming all the farmland and kicking the farmers off and saying, well, for climate, we need to get rid of all of the cows. They're a climate disaster, and they're reclaiming the land, kicking the farmers off, kind of buying them out and giving them like no competition contracts and things. And I think they're trialing it in the Netherlands. And I'm wondering, like, what's likely to happen? If the EU put pressure on Portugal, what do you think Portugal's going to do?
Portugal will just bend over. They'll pick up the soap and stay down there as long as they need. So Portuguese governments and everything are very much, just do whatever they're told.
So they'll like, they've got the. I love the fact that you said, we're kind of like, you do you, we'll do us, kind of just like leave us alone. But like then when the EU come in and there's a bit of pressure, you think everyone will cave. Like what do you think will happen in terms of the farming community if that kind of thing starts to occur? Do you think there'll be a backlash, or?
I don't know. I mean, people. I feel like the Portuguese people just, as long as you let them do their thing, they're okay.
Right.
But I don't know. I really don't know what would happen. I just know that all of these things, it seems so silly to me because they're always trying to find a new boogeyman and something new to rile behind. And it's like, we already have so many effective solutions, but they don't feel cool, so people don't do it. And I know this might be a little bit controversial because there's not a lot of good information about it. But every time I hear governments and whatever complaining, oh my God, the environment and energy and pollution, just use nuclear energy. It's the greenest energy we have. Like there's a US battleship, one of those huge plane carrier boats that's been running for over 30 years with a tennis ball sized ball of uranium.
Yeah.
And it provides a whole energy for the thing for decades. Like, and it is safe. Like people always mention Fukushima and Chernobyl, but it's like, okay, great. Out of the hundreds, if not thousands of nuclear plants all over the world, you only know 2 disasters in decades when they were doing unethical experiments and things. And if you go there, life is flourishing.
Yeah.
Like, if you actually Google the deaths,
normal, the land has all come back to normal, hasn't it?
Yes, but that's again, I don't want to get into a huge political debate here, but for me, my issue was so much of the planning, and I was going to make this this outsider's observation of the Portuguese government, which tends to make a decision and then try to deal with the backlash. Putting out all the fires they created by making that decision, rather than planning, how do we avoid the fires in the first place before we implement policy? That's sort of been my observation. Humans tend to be, well, not all humans, but at least humans in developed nations tend to be very short-sighted. This is the fix for now. Yes, it's cheaper. Yes, it doesn't create a mess right now, except in very rare occasions. But it also produces this waste that takes hundreds or thousands of years to disperse, if ever. And what do we do with that waste as we're accumulating it to provide the safety and the cheapness of the power? So we don't think 7 generations in advance. It's just right now, right now, right now. That's my argument with electric cars and other things. This is the fix it. Yes, for now it is. But what's the longer term? What do we do with the batteries when they don't work anymore? For me, the planning needs to be very long term if anything is going to work. And maybe there is a long-term solution for nuclear. Maybe there's not. I don't know any of that. I just say this is how we need to think. We have to stop being in such a freaking hurry to deal with it right this second and let the consequences be damned. We'll let the kids figure that out. We'll be dead.
Please forgive me, because I realized that, in asking about 15-minute cities and those kinds of things, just because you were mentioning about a smart meter, I remember being quite not opposed to smart meters, but there's a lot of smart technology coming in, isn't there? And they often run on different radio waves and things like that. And I don't really like the idea of that. But I didn't realize that, I would kind of throw this little bomb in and it could really explode.
Ooh, yeah, it doesn't take much.
And I imagine it's going to create a bit of a shit show for a lot of people watching, because there's going to be lots of people that believe in nuclear, lots of people that will have a very strong opinion about nuclear, also with electric cars and solar energy and all sorts of different things. One of the things that comes up for me quite a bit is the idea that it would appear that there's a narrative that seems to emerge from the EU and from a lot of superpowers saying this is the way and you can't discuss anything else. And so that's why I like to bring these things up. But maybe I should have allowed for a bit more time.
maybe, yeah. But I mean, I know that when I was growing up, it was like, oh my God, the ozone layer, we're we only have 1 year, otherwise it's too late. And now,
well, that's been going on for years, hasn't it? I mean, old.
It's like there are always these environmental panics, and then it always ends up to be nothing. And
well, yeah, like your US guy, is it John Kerry? Is that the guy who talks about climate disaster and all the things he's prophesied have not happened, not at all.
So,
all
but the way I see it is this:
have their beach houses not sunken at all.
yes. But the way I see it is this: like, definitely do what's good for the environment and everything. Not because I think if we use plastic straws, all of the turtles are gonna die or anything. But it's like, just maintain the place where you live. Don't throw trash on the floor. It looks bad. It's terrible. Like,
the earth is your home. Treat it like that. Well, some people you wouldn't want treating it like they treat their homes, but yes, if you're going to take care of it, you know.
And it's as simple as that. Like cars, right? The black smoke that comes out of some cars. It's like, even if that wouldn't like destroy the environment or anything, it still smells bad. So take care of it. It's simple.
I do really like what you were saying, James, about, you know, like the 7 generations, you know, like we often, or governments in particular are often, you know, suggesting things, and you think, oh, well, that looks like a quick fix. And I think people expect a quick fix, but people aren't so invested in the long-term future because it might create a little bit of pain or anxiety or whatever. It's quite a big subject. Anyway, I need to wrap this up, and I can see there's a bit of a conversation going on about fish and chips.
Fish and chips, all right, 35 euros.
Ignore a fish and chips discussion because I am quite partial to them. So let's just Joao is saying no, you were talking about fries versus chips. So I think
yes,
an American versus UK thing here.
Well, no, it's a Portuguese thing. You order batatas fritas and you don't know whether you're getting chips or fries. That's where it started.
And to put that into British speak, you don't know whether you're getting crisps or chips.
Or chips, yes.
Yeah.
Talk about language being fun.
Yeah, you kind of have to figure it out based on the context. If it's like a francesinha, for example, it's most likely French fries because that's what you would usually see with it.
Yes, in fact, Joao has said it's chips versus crisps.
Yes.
Owen saying no discussion, is chips. Viv, hey Viv. I agree, James.
Well, thank you on everything. I'm right.
Master of the universe. I really like this this from Square of the Shires. Dr. Shiva, Truth, Freedom, Health, explains the science of systems and the globalist corporate takeover. Pete is adding something because obviously Pete has got a very strong interest in power and resourcing. He's saying my electric car and power is totally renewable, and you'll find that any nuclear power station has a cost of disposal programmed in. In fact, they're making a waste storage site in Finland. Thank you, Pete. Eliana is saying, good morning, all. A good week to all. And back to you too. João Donor is saying, it strikes me as so strange that Portuguese has no distinction between chips and fries or crisps and chips. Yes, we must do something about it. Let's talk to our MEPs about it.
Let's change the culture.
We do, but it's an adjective. As I was saying, like the chips or crisps or whatever, those would be batata frita de pacote. Like
packet. Is that as opposed to uma doce? Like, you know, like you asked for a portion?
Not necessarily, because that means a dose. And if it's a place where they get you packaged crisps in a bowl or something, if you ask for 2 doses, sometimes they might give you 2 bowls or like double the amount or whatever.
Oh, and on the menu, it doesn't make that distinction. You know, on the menu, it just says batatas fritas.
Yeah. So again, best ways to ask.
Yes. Okay. Now that I know the distinction, I'll have to figure out how to ask in Portuguese.
So Pete is also saying there are also always excuses to delay, like ludicrous hydrogen, but the effects are obvious. Highest temperatures in recorded history. 30,000 Vietnamese evacuated this morning due to the typhoon. Okie dokes. Bob is saying, hi, Bob. Pete, have you ever considered how the energy diesel used to mine the lithium just moved the climate impact to another part of the world? Net carbon impact is negligible. My goodness, this is going to be a conversation.
We're not going to get settled here for sure.
Which is, I'm going to leave it on a cliffhanger and a bombshell for Carl to pick up tomorrow morning. Pete saying, Joado North, you're right. Getting served crisps with a main meal stops you from going out. A bit like being served a pot noodle at lunch. Oh my God, more coming in. Squire of the Shires, smart meters are the doorway to extracting data in your home. That's why I don't want them and will do anything I can to avoid them. Switching you off if you have different opinions to the overlord's narrative. You are absolutely speaking my language. Jean is saying fusion is the ultimate answer. Thank you for that, Jean.
If we can just figure that one out.
Placed on a rocket and send it to an obscure asteroid. It'd be a good use of SpaceX. There's so many opinions here today. Bob, of course, lithium mining is taking place here in Portugal. It really is. And much more is planned. So hardly shifting the problem away. It will affect the water quality. So it is something to factor in. Dougie's saying, fantastic show, Louisa. You did a fantastic job.
Yes, you did.
You know what? I think he's very happy because he's getting out for the day as well. I think he's quite...
Day off, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he shows up every day. And like he said, actually, on the coach, he's not normally up before 8. You know, sometimes he gets up at like 8:15, hops straight in the shower, comes down and does the show. So I think, yeah, it's a different experience for him today. So anyway, I think I need to wrap this up because what we've gone through today, like we started off talking about what lights you up in terms of are you introverted or extroverted and labels and things. And then we've moved up to what lights up our home and our world with Vitor and his electricity. And then, you know, we've kind of lit the whole resource conversation. We set it on fire, chucked in a couple of Molotov cocktails or whatever they're called and blown it up in our faces.
Well, I have to say, I'm disappointed that we didn't solve the energy problem on Earth today in this few minutes. That would have been, I was really looking forward to accomplishing that.
Well, that's something we'll have to do another day. I think it's much better and safer in Carl's hands, to be fair, because I'm quite diversive.
And a different show, probably.
Yeah, I bring a bit of a conspiratorial nature to proceedings, so it's best in Carl's quite neutral hands, actually, I think. So anyway, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, everyone who has contributed, everyone that's watched, who's been a lurker, gumping in the background. Thank you for joining us. Hope to see you another time. James, thank you as ever. Vitor, thank you so much. Big hugs to you both. Big ones. And I'm gonna roll the outro, but after I'm gonna put in a video with a 1-minute short about today's astrology, just because crossover, good astrologer here. So
just because you can.
Yeah, because I can. I've got
there you go.
Why not? The man isn't there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Gonna take advantage. So anyway, have a fantastic day. See you all another time. Thank you so much. What's that you're sharing me? What's that?
It's just a book to help learn Chinese.
Oh, perfect.
For the characters.
Okay. That's really cool. I love those pictures. Very, very nice. Well, thank you, everyone. If you want to listen to the astrology, stay on. But if not, we'll catch you another time. Much love. Bye for now.
Ciao, ciao.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
So for the astrology of the 17th of July 2023, this is quite a big day of changes, in particular with the moon and Chiron. We're a little insecure, you know, that sense that something's about to change but you can't quite put your finger on it. And we've also got this sense of how far can we go with our communication? And we're a little bit edgy. We may well go too far in the things we're saying. But you know what? Towards the end of the day, we've got this lovely new moon in Cancer, which is really going to challenge us in quite an emotional way. And then the North Node goes into the sign of Aries, where it's going to be for the next 18 months. If I was in your shoes today, I would literally just think about what's really important to you. What are you really wanting to manifest? These new moon days are days to create. And with the North Node changing signs too, this is really strong to dream big and then create even bigger.